Welcome back, everyone, to Piney Plays a Stout Minstrel. Last time we were kicked out of the spire by the Stout Axes, or perhaps I should say the Fire Horns, as they like to now call themselves. And it looks like Gimli, Sparkorth, and I are the only ones left out here. Sparkorth and I, are we the last of the two true Stout Axes? Interesting question. What do you say, Sparkorth?
How have we fallen so far?
Gimli has not turned his eyes from the spires since we were cast out, Pineveer. I wonder, does he truly believe a share of the blame is his? In truth, the blame lies with Voskmoon, Zorith, and Sauron himself. By Sauron's own hand, Voskmon was corrupted by the ring, and he's now bound to it by pride and greed, as the Nazgûl were in their own rings. Gimli's a fine dwarf, and he has done my people no ill. He must not believe that his efforts to aid us were the cause of such sorrow. It was Voskmund and his fire horns. As he commanded, the spire is now called the Oath Taker's Horn. What oath has been taken, I ask? An oath to bring ruin upon our people? Voskmon may as well consider it fulfilled then. Now, what do we have over there? Do you see the two of them by the statue of Sauron? Well, they're certainly not dwarves. Could they be allies of yours? Let me see. Let's see who these strangers are. Is that Lego? No, it's Magaldeer, alright. I found Magaldeer and Durnath. Hello there. What business have you in these lands, Stout Axe? Oh, that's an interesting story there. Well, uh, did you. How about this? I'm called a Stout Axe by an elf, but not by the Stout Axes. Now that's something. Did you travel hither with a host of men, or is this land your home? Speak at once, or my spear shall be swift. How about that? Megoriel is the first person in the entire game to wonder whether or not I came from Mordor. Now, I don't know if she says that to all dwarves, but I do find it interesting that an elf is the first one to even consider the possibility that I may be a native of Mordor. Now, how am I going to answer this question? That's an interesting question. Did you not hear? I said speak! Why have you come here? I introduce myself to Megweder and tell her of my journeys with the host of the West and my efforts to ensure the success of the Ring-Bearer's quest and the downfall of Sauron the enemy. I also tell Megweder of the dwarves of Mordor and of their efforts to find the lost dwarf rings in Sauron's hordes. Very well, Pineveer. I am Megoril of Linden, and my companion is Durnath. We are among the last remnants of the great alliance in this realm, and it brought us joy and relief to learn that Sauron has truly fallen. Death has always eluded the Dark Lord, but I have heard that his ring is gone and his essence diminishes to naught. I know not why any would seek the dwarf rings or any other artifact that was wrought by Sauron's corruption. For now, the evils he had done to the peoples of Middle-earth might now begin to heal at last. I never thought I would look upon the plain of Gorgoroth again, but fate has brought me hither once more. You see, Durnath and I returned to this land in search for our lost friend and kin. Theleron. Theleron. Well, let's see what Dernith has to say. I am still recovering from my encounter with one of the enemy's fell spirits, and my will is exhausted. Allow me a moment, Stout Axe, and we shall speak. Dernith takes a moment to steady himself. If Megariel has not wished to speak, you would not stand where you are. What is it you want? Tell Dernith what Megariel mentioned of the fell spirits that inhabited the Washing Stone, and what she and Dernith had come to in search of the elf called Therolin. He also mentioned the dwarf rings and asked if Dernith knows of any of their history beyond when they were first granted to the dwarf kingdoms by Sauron. Indeed, we have come in search of our companion, Feleron. This is a quest of our own, and one given to us long ago by the High King of my people before he was slain by Sauron. As for the fell spirit, the one that rose from the statue looked a shade of Sauron himself, but weaker and less wicked in form. It was an echo of Sauron's sorcery, an echo of the Dark Lord. A glamour? This glamour told me of the Mordath, the black pit beneath Barad-dûr where the damned are imprisoned, and it has also told me to leave these lands or I will join the forgotten in the depths of the black pits and never again find my way from Mordor. I do not heed the warnings from such spirits, but these tidings are both good and ill. If Theron lives, he may have been taken into the black pits. Thus, we would have never found him when last we destroyed Barad-dûr. He was hidden away, far beneath the scorched lands of Mordor, left to pass an age in silence and darkness, and bearing whatever tortures the Dork Lord devised for him. To answer your questions of the dwarf rings, I have heard a few tales and rumors of them, but little else. As I have heard it told, they were not work as Sauron had planned. The dwarf rings granted might and luck, as well as some manner of concealment, but they did not corrupt the dwarves into the servants of the Dark Lord of the rings that men did. Instead, the dwarf rings brought forth a powerful and insatiable greed from deep within the minds of the dwarf kings, a greed that bred in them a compulsion to seek wealth by any means and to hoard it in their vast halls. Ah, but other creatures were as fond of gold as the dwarves, and so for some of the dwarf kingdoms the rings wrought them into ruin. I'm afraid that is all I know of them, and so I believe it is time that Megariel and I resume our search and seek out the Mordrath. Your allies here seem to have a great need of you. If our paths cross again, Megariel and I shall stand at your side. All right. Quite a fate. Based on anything I could tell, she says the same thing to any race, not just the Stout Axes, and not just the dwarves. She considers that anyone could be from this land, even hobbits? Whew, no wonder I forgot what she says. Hello there, Gimli. What do you say? Gimli appears to be muttering to himself as you approach. He gently places your hand on the shoulder, but his gaze remains fixed on the spire. I have made more than a few great mistakes in my time, Pinebeater, but as any fine dwarf would, and as I always have, I put them to rights. The tortures Sauron brought upon Voskmoon might not be undone, but there's still a goodness in these dwarves, a fair few of them anyway. To sulk here wishing of a different fate for the stout axes, that is not our way, my friend. The ring he seeks, this Manthrief, it shall not free him from his delusion and greed. I say Voskman must be convinced of his folly, or he must be brought low. This is not as simple a matter as it was with the dour hands. These firehorns are not cruel or evil in their hearts, but the promise of a dwarf ring's power has begun to chip away at their good sense. You and I saw what the ring did to Frodo. Even in the short span of months he bore it before our paths were forced apart. If Voskmun was forced to wear it in the dungeons of Barad-dûr during his imprisonment, and then deprived of its power by Sauron, his mind may have withered into an obsession. Although, being a dwarf, I think he may have fared a bit better than Gollum. Pinevere, I do not wish to raise arms against Voskmun and his people if I can help it. Voskmun may not allow us inside the Oath-taker's horn, but that does not mean we cannot come to the doors of the spire. Ha! Go to the hidden gate of the Oath-taker's horn and summon the firehorns. Deliver them an invitation for King Greattooth to meet us upon the field. When that's done, we shall speak of peace and of having some better dwarf sense. Very well. I shall head over to the spire and make a final plea. I hear hammer falls inside the gate. Sounds like they're sealing it. There's not going to be any way to parley with them there. What about the main gate? Now let's see if we can get anything through the main gate. Discover a small metal rot mechanism. Alright. Let's try opening it. You hear muffled trumpeting and either of the as two armed fire. You should not be here. There shall be no peace between our peoples, neither now nor once the ring is found. We shall send Gimli a message of your head. Well, it sounds like to me I am going to take that as a no to my planned call for a truce. There you go. Oh, you have got to be kidding. The forge workers don't count for this deed, since I would have opened up that deed a long time ago. When I actually know this is specifically for Dora Marth. Are these the first dwarves I fought in Dora Marth? Could be that the Udun ones. Let's see the name of this. Defeat many evil dwarves in Dora Marth. So therefore the ones in Udun wouldn't count anyway. Well, I'll tell Gimli their answer. Their response was they don't care about you and they attempted to take my head from my shoulders. They did what now? They attacked you? And they threatened my folk? Well, that settles it. The time for talk has ended. Oopsie daisy, they got him upset. Our hand is forced, Pinevere. We're proud dwarves, my friend, and such treachery cannot go unanswered. We must stop the firehorns from seeking the dwarf ring. No matter their supposed might, some family heirlooms are best forgotten, I think. It is not unlike the Axe Minstrel Ziegelbert, of which you once spoke. If the search does not bring them to ruin, finding it will not change their fortunes. If the men of Mordor still desire the ring, they shall not rest until it's recovered, whether it be by their own hands or taken from those foolish enough to wield it in Mordor. No matter where he leads them, Voskmund is putting his folk into great danger. The fool would lead his people into the fires of Mount Doom if he thought the dwarf ring might be hidden there. The fire horns are even worse than the dour hands we encountered in our adventures, my friend. At least I knew where I stood with the dour hands. Perhaps Legolas was right after all. It is decided then, for the good of the dwarves of Mordor, we must storm the Oath Taker's horn. Okay. And what shall I do while storming it? But hold a moment, Pine Peter. You surely saw, as I did, that some among the stout axes seemed unsettled by the king's command that we be cast out of the spire. What will become of them? Shall they be met down with threats and curses? Perhaps they shall even be unfairly marked as traitors. I cannot speak for King Diane, but I would offer the stout axes a new home among my folk. They're dwarves much like you and me, and certainly more like me than you, I'm afraid. And they have resisted the corruption that has taken the mind of their king. Besides, we shall have a great need of hardy dwarves now that Sauron's fallen. If you find any who still name themselves Stout Axes in the Oath Taker's horn, aid them and offer them my promise that they shall find refuge in the halls of Durin's folk. Very well, I shall bring word to them. What else you need? Ha ha! Yes, the fire horns may have sealed the hidden gate, but they have left their greatest weakness exposed. Don't you see, Pine Peter? The lower gate is now the only passage into and out of the spire, and it leads to the heart of their forges. I think you know what I have in mind, my friend. Ruin the forges and break their weapons, and I dare say that their search will be over before it begins. If the fire horns discover you, do what you must. When the dour hands treated the Longbeards as cruelly as the fire horns now treat the stout axes, we did not shy away from battle. We're dwarves of honor, and no matter the oppressor, we fight for our folk. While you deal with that, I'll escort Sparkort into the spire. He has a mind to speak with King Greytooth, but I do not think it wise. Oh well, I have my axe if talking won't do. Good, you're gonna need that. I need to defeat Firehorn Smiths, destroy weapon racks, and douse forges. Well, those are easy to restart once you get rid of all the water. Well, what do you say, Sparkorth?
Long have we toiled, and for what?
Ah, good question. At my request, Gimli has offered to escort me to Zor's chambers in the heights of the spire. We shall force Voskmund to hear my counsel, even if he heeds not a single word of it. Indeed, the stout axes may still be free of the tyrants of Mordor, but Voskmund has become one of them, whether he believes it or not. I trust Gimli's axe shall keep me from harm, but I would ask that you seek Versting, Jiri, Nath, and Freki as we storm the spire. If they have not already realized the king's folly, I would have you convince them to abandon the search for the dwarf rings and seek refuge among the Durin's folk and Gimli has proposed. As for Eater, he may stand in our way, but he's a dwarf of words and little else. He has always sought to please those in power, and I think his loyalty is now as false as it was ever been. If he stands in the way of the king, He must be defeated or exposed for the coward that he is. Go, Pinebeater. Gimli and I shall follow you into the spire. That's right. Now we are going to storm the spire. Or at least that's what we're going to be doing in the next episode of Piney Plays, a Stout Minstrel.